right, hi everybody. Thanks so much for joining today. My name is Brad Thomas and I am the lead for Project 525 at a global level as well. I work for a company from South Africa. I'm from South Africa. The company is NIL Africa, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here. And I just want to introduce Dave. Dave?
Hello, Dave Mallory. I'm Senior Director of Engineering for Learn with Cisco. So I'm the guy who's responsible for all of the learning content, delivery of training, Cisco U, and so on, as well as Cisco Modeling Labs is built by my team.
Yeah, I'm very grateful to have Dave with me today as well, and he's been instrumental in supporting the Project 525 as well as what we're going to go through. So what we're really going to unpack today is what is Project 525 and how it benefits the individuals that go on the program, the process of certification as well, and why that's important to engineers who are going through trying to look at that CCIE certification, as well as some insights from Dave in terms of his expectations when we were actually developing this, because remember, this was in collaboration with Cisco in terms of its design and its build, and it's been instrumental. Dave's team has been instrumental in ensuring that it is relevant to individuals getting their certifications, and through that collaboration we've seen some major successes. The challenge that we were trying to overcome within Africa was that there was a really low number of certified engineers, and this was after the COVID pandemic, and we needed to model something that addressed the shortfall, and that modeled off the old Cisco 360 program that was developed, I think it was about 2016, Dave. Maybe you can give a bit of an insight around what that was.
Yeah, so Cisco had built a expert level training program. It was originally branded the 360. Getting a little bit of squeak there, but it then became, so Cisco 360 program became Cisco expert level training. And I was the lead SME on that project. It actually started, I think how old my son is, 16 years ago, because it was started when he was 5. And our goal was to help people become CCIEs. Very difficult journey, so we built a very complex program. In our refresh of the certification portfolio in 2020, due to priorities and still challenges with COVID and so on, we did not refresh that program. So we actually ended up with a gap in that expert level training. And that's when we partnered with NIL Africa to address that skill shortage specifically in Africa, but now globally as well, with this new program.
Absolutely. I've just lost... Can you hear me? Okay. Absolutely. Thanks, Dave. And you know, to that point as well, with the low number of certified engineers within Africa, we had seen a lot leaving Africa, or the continent of Africa, and they were going to international jobs that was paying a lot more for them as well. And this created the gap, and there was this no growth or this no real structure that allowed individuals to get to expert level. So we really needed to address this. And through that, we actually spoke to Dave and his team around this Project 525. We went to San Jose, I met with Dave, and I said, Dave, there's an opportunity here for us to recreate and build and bridge the divide that is currently being created by not having expert skills across the continent of Africa. And with that, Dave and his team came through to South Africa. And Dave, I mean, you had some expectations from that session when you came through. What were some of the expectations that you had that would align to allowing engineers to become certified in CCIE again?
So I'll talk a little bit about the journey to become an expert in anything, right? But for us, when we met with NIL, with Brad and his team, they had an idea, they had a plan. We took what we learned, what worked very well in our 360 program, made sure that was included. We also made sure the gaps were addressed. And I think that's why the 525 program is so successful. There were 2 gaps that we had in our expert level training. The first one was, it was, how shall I say, very flexible. It was too flexible. It was very self-paced, very self-deterministic. You went through what you wanted to go through at your own pace. And we saw the vast majority of people would actually not complete. They would get distracted, they get discouraged. So the mentoring aspect of the 525 program is critical to the success. The other thing that we found is most people overestimate their skills, their knowledge. So with our expert level program, we had a lot of people who came in who thought, well, I'm a CCNP. I'm now ready to go for CCIE. And they had a good grasp of parts of the blueprint, but not the entire blueprint. So the other thing with the 525 program is that make sure you had those foundational skills and then builds upon those, the expert level critical thinking skills that are required to become an expert. So.
Absolutely. The challenge that we encountered was not only the gap that was created, but also with the technology that was constantly disruptive and very complex. We had to look at what this would mean to an engineer to support them and actually find a way that would benefit those individuals in becoming certified, whatever it was going to be, whether it's a CCNP as well as a CCIE. And the technology evolution has really slowed down the ability of engineers to be strong in what they're trying to do and keep their relevance within their organization to ensure that what they are trying to deploy and deliver, they can actually support and optimize against as well. So we weren't only fixing one issue, we fixed an issue that was being created by the disruption of technology, which then created a demand for this particular program, which was initially identified for an African market, to actually start looking at a global market as well, because it was actually a really well-structured program that meant a lot for a lot of people across the world as well. I talk about the actual job role evolution, and if you look at how a CIO is now struggling to actually maintain the relevance of the individuals within their team, the job roles are actually changing at a rapid rate. And it's not only a problem for the CIO, but it's actually a problem for the organization and the human resources and the learning and development individuals within that organization as well. And to try and find these skills that are out in the market, not only are very difficult and well sought after, but they are actually quite expensive as well for anybody to try and bring that individual onto your organization. And then how long can you hold that person within your organization as well before they're taken back by another company that wants those skills as well. So the best option now is to understand the importance of those certifications for you as an organization, or yourself as well. And upskilling is now, and insourcing is now becoming far more prevalent for organizations, so that they are able to build those skills, maintain those skills, and have succession plans that allows them to support the infrastructure that is deployed on their network.
Let me chime in here.
Okay.
Can you go back?
Thanks, Dave.
There's actually one key thing that's missing here. Anybody identify what's not on this slide? Anybody see AI on that slide?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Why do you think there's not an AI engineer on there? Because everywhere, right? Every one of these jobs has AI in it, including the network engineer. So we'll talk about that a little bit again as we get a little further on. But that came up in an earlier conversation I had, is where's the AI engineer? We don't see AI engineers. We see all engineers needing to know how to use AI.
So the journey is important, and what we found is that there seems to be a gravitation to a different type of learning. We're seeing engineers trying to balance both life and their work pace as well, and the kind of work that's getting loaded on top of them, especially an AI engineer as an example. What is an AI engineer, and what type of skills do they have to be able to support their organization? So structured learning path was really important, and Project 525 implemented that structured learning path, that blended learning path that supported both a work and a balance for life as well, because we know there's an impact on life. And that looks like a bundle that is over a 12-month period. And that's what's become quite well sought after when we start talking to individuals who are saying, I want to get certification, I just don't have the ability to go away from my desk for an extended period of time or the work floor because I'm needed. So we've looked at how do we bundle that and how do we bring mentors in, and that's why we brought mentors in, because we want to measure the output of those individuals and what they are providing as a support to them to actually get to that certification. They're also looking at continuous growth as well, and for them, being able to do this learning at a pace that is affordable to them is making a lot of sense. So it's a continuum of journey that we look at. And we look at the foundational individuals. And Dave, I think you know there's a lot of individuals coming through who are CCNAs. But what you start seeing is when they get past that CCNA stage and their skills start evolving and getting a lot more developed, they start to become more sought after within the organization. And the organization starts using those skills a lot more. And the time and the expectation of that individual who wanted to become a CCIE is now lessened to a degree. And they don't have the ability or the time to now go for the CCNP certification. And these are all the impacting factors that obviously one of them or some of them is impacted that doesn't allow them to actually achieve those professional certifications or even those expert certifications. And that's what we really wanted to try and do with Project 525, is ensure that that balance is there so that they can get through it and those individuals can achieve their goals. And not only for the individuals, but for the organizations as well, because you'll see validation is very important for the infrastructure that the guys are putting in. I had a meeting with a guy, and he told me that there was a survey done of around about 3,000 engineers, and 70% of those 3,000 engineers actually preferred to be trained and guided within their organization over job role promotion as well as salary. So that's a big number, and that just shows the nature of an individual and the mindset of what those engineers go through in terms of upskilling themselves. That's been their passion, that's their desire as well. And so important to an organization is the productivity. If they have that confidence and that courage and they have the ability to support the infrastructure with the right skill sets that's been afforded to them by an organization, the productivity is increased by as much as 40%. And also improved client delivery. If you look at that client delivery stack as well, what's important to a customer is being able to service their internal customers, or if it's a managed service provider, their external customers. And that's to see a 44% improved client experience is a significant number for them to understand. And that's why certifications are so important to an organization, because of the validation that it provides. And for us, from an African point of view, and now globally it's becoming more and more of a requirement, is obviously 41% closing the skills gap. That's become very important as well. So in the mindset of an engineer, what they're looking for is the ability to have the skills, the necessary skills, to be confident and courageous to make the right decisions. If you think about it, you are no longer seeing engineers sitting in the back office. Their contribution is essential to the CEO and the CIO of an organization, sitting around a boardroom table, giving the strategic technical direction of that organization and how they can best deploy technologies that suit that organization and gives it the competitive edge that they want to have. And these particular points are very relevant to engineers across the business as well, and how they conceptualize, how they think. And these need to be supported by organizations to provide that guidance so that they are able to provide the expert skills that they have as well. So Dave, with that, I'm going to hand back over to you where you can start talking about that expertise, and you can give us an idea of what you thought of CCIE.
So April 26th, I had a little anniversary. It was my 30th year as a CCIE. So I am CCIE number 1933, which explains the gray hair up here. Became a passion of mine. So I was at a partner when I got my first CCIE. I joined Cisco, and CCIE became a little bit of a hobby for me. So I got my CCIE in 96. In 2001, I got my second. In 2002, I got my third. In 2003, I got my fourth. And I had a friend in the learning group, and he said, "Hey, Dave, you should come and teach people how to become CCIEs." I said, "Okay. Sounds like a break." I was SE for almost 12 years. I was getting a little burnt out. I'll go teach CCIEs for a couple of years and then go back to being an SE. 23 years later, I'm still here because I have such a passion for the group and what we do. But I realized very quickly that while I had passed the CCIE exams, I didn't know what it meant to be an expert. It's very hard to teach somebody how to become an expert without that knowledge of what it means to be an expert. So I did a lot of studying. I read books on cognitive task development, how the brain functions. And I got very lucky. I found this book, the Cambridge Handbook of Experience and Expertise and Expert Performance. Nobody needs this book. Okay? It's like 700 pages of study after study after study of what it means to be an expert. And then in the back, the guy says, here's what it means. Okay? So actually, before I continue, the reason I'm still here, this was a pictures of Yusuf Baji. Yusuf runs the certification program. Myself, we were in China right before COVID. And we're at a CCIE event. We hosted a party, and they all wanted to come and take selfies and stuff. And a little bit of an ego boost because, right, we get to be the face of the program. And this guy asked us to autograph his laptop. Okay. That was a really defining moment for me. This is how valuable certification, education, knowledge is to people, right? So when Brad asked us, hey, can you come help us design this program? I'm like, sure, I will fly 16 hours to South Africa if I get to go on a little safari and see some leopards and lions. And I've gone 5 times since throughout the continent because it is such a beautiful thing when people can learn, have that passion for learning, and have that passion for growth, right? So Brad threw those pictures in, not me, but I figured I'd tell the story real quick. So what does it mean to be an expert? You have to have domain knowledge. I think that's obvious. You can't be an expert in something you don't have domain knowledge in. But CCNAs have domain knowledge. CCNPs have domain knowledge. Okay? For us, the CCIE blueprint is larger than the NA and the NP. But the real critical things, the ability to form a mental simulation. This is the key to an expert mindset. You have to have the knowledge, but then you have to have that thinking process, the mental simulation. I know I'm never supposed to use sports analogies, but it's the best one I can come up with, right? I'm a horrible golfer. I've been taking lessons, but they're not working. The professionals will be looking and analyzing the way the lie of the green, the type of grass, the wind, the humidity, all kinds of things, and they're doing that instantly, and they're visualizing their shot. That's the mental simulation. In sports, you always hear you visualize your shot, right? Whether it's in soccer, football, basketball, right? There's plays laid out, and you're practicing, and you're visualizing those shots. That ability is what we test in the CCIE. Your ability to have a very large set of requirements that are all interdependent, and your ability to analyze those requirements and come up with that mental simulation of how you're going to solve those requirements in a very time-constrained way. If I gave you 3 days, everyone here would pass the CCIE. We give you 8 hours so that we can assess, can you form that mental simulation? The last trait of an expert is the ability to self-verify. Did you meet the requirements? So when we built the original 360 program, we focused on that mental simulation and the self-verification. And if you read through our labs, the solution guides, we told you, here's how you should have analyzed the requirements. Here's how you should have built your plan. And here's the tools, the command lines, the show commands, whatever, that you should have used to make sure you were right, okay? And that got people 60 to 70% of what they needed. But the 525 program we built on top of that, and we added in that mentoring that gives you that ability to interact. Because down here, how do you become an expert? Doesn't matter if you're trying to become an attorney, a doctor, a CCIE. You have to have deliberate practice, and you have to have accurate feedback. So in the original program, we had graded labs. We told you if you got it right or wrong. But that's different than being able to have a conversation, have that mentor who can guide you through, right? So that accurate feedback, that coaching, is a critical part of any education. Deliberate practice. That doesn't mean you practice BGP. I should say it doesn't just mean you practice BGP. or OSPF or route redistribution. You do all of those things. But you also practice analyzing requirements, forming a mental simulation. Okay? I took my voice CCIE. Ben's here somewhere. Ben wrote the exam. He failed me twice. I'm his boss now. So I don't hold him over too much. He passed me the third time. The first time was the week it started. I went in, I took it. Ben said, "What'd you think?" And I said, "Ben, I think I know how to do everything on here. It's just too much." And he said, yeah, I get it. I understand. But people have passed, so you're wrong. It's okay. So I went back and I studied really, really hard. And I came back 30 days later. And I sat down and I took the test. And I got done. And he said, "Dave, what'd you think?" And I said, "Ben, I told you last time it was too much. Nobody could do this in 8 hours. And you put more." He said, "Of course I did. You already seen it. So now you should be able to do more." This is when, about the time I found this book. And I went back and I deliberately practiced. Not how do I do a dial plan. Not how do I implement, contact center. I went back and practiced how am I going to analyze those requirements and how am I going to develop a plan of attack for meeting them. The third time, when I went to lunch, none of my phones were able to make a phone call. And I was a little panicked, right? Because phones have to make phone calls on a voice lab. At 1:30, I was done. Because I touched every device once. I had a plan, and I had practiced it enough that I could go through that entire lab that, rightly you should have probably had 12 hours to do, and I did it in 4.5 hours. Okay? That deliberate practice, that mental simulation, that people will use the term critical thinking. I prefer mental simulation, right? That ability to synthesize requirements and come up with a plan of attack, that is the measure of an expert. But these skills or these methodologies are not just for experts. As you build your skills throughout the continuum, we do Netacad, right? High school and college students, all the way through people who are old like me at the end of their careers, continuously learning. We apply these same principles, right? The deliberate practice and accurate feedback is critical to your learning. And that was, I believe, in my opinion, the main success of the 525 program. Okay. So with that, Brad, I'm going to get back to you.
Dave, thanks very much. And I think really the context around that is that it's not supposed to be easy.
Oh, it's not supposed to be easy. If it were easy, it would have no value.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we really try and ensure that the delegates coming on this program understand that. We want individuals who come through this program and successfully achieve their lab, that they are able to apply practically what they have learned through the process and be able to apply it to the businesses that they're actually currently working for as well. That's critical. So it's not an easy program. It's not designed to be easy, but what we've managed to do is provide the best possible route to actually get there. And this talks to the success that we've had. And you'll see a number of figures up here that talks to the success. And since January this year, obviously we've been running this for about 18 months, 2 years. And from January this year, we've got the figures that show that individuals who are currently on the labs that they are running through for CCNP, their completion ratio so far through the program is 71%, and 64% of the delegates have passed their labs exams already, and there's still delegates going through the actual program itself. On the CCIE side as well, you've seen some great figures as well. We're starting to see figures that are double the amount of what we had or what Cisco had potentially traditionally seen as success pass rates as well. And this is really talking to the success of the actual program itself in terms of how it's been structured. And that's what I'm going to go through in a sec.
Yeah, I just want to chime in there. The CCIE is very hard, intentionally, right? 2% of Cisco certified individuals have a CCIE or a CCDE, okay? So this is the top. The 49%, it's about 2.5 times the average pass rate. So the participants in this program have been hugely, hugely successful. So we did a pilot with NIL Africa to the first cohort. I will have to say we were expecting a significant improvement over all the people who take their CCIE. A lot of self-study, some doing boot camps and other things. we expected improvement. I did not expect this. In fact, the first cohort was 80%.
And the first-time pass rate was massive as well,
yes.
which was really good.
The first-time pass rate was 5 times our average first-time pass rate. Okay. Now, those were the companies that picked their top engineers. They were extremely motivated, extremely dedicated, great support from their companies, but still a 5x pass rate. So it speaks to that power of two things in my mind, and that Brad will go into, that structured aspect of this. It's not a self-study program. It is very, very structured, and it covers the foundation. You spend 6 months building that foundation before you start going into that expert level mindset, and that's another 6 months. Okay.
Absolutely. So yeah, great success from the actual program as well. We had the demand to actually go global. So what we did was we spoke to some international partners who we've trained up, skilled up, and able to actually run the program in your particular time zone. Obviously from Africa, it would be quite difficult for us to do that. So we strategically aligned ourselves with partners. We're looking at changing that dynamic because of the demand to try and increase that footprint as well. And so you will have access to mentors within your region, within your time zone, which makes a very big difference to the experience as well. So we started out with these particular ones. Dave spoke about a pilot. Pilot was on enterprise infrastructure, and certainly it is by far the most popular certification that we actually carry. And we still do. If we look at the cohorts, the first cohort, we actually promised not to exceed 20 delegates on that cohort, because what that meant was that the mentor would struggle to actually support everybody on that cohort. But we had such demand, we had actually 26 delegates come onto that first cohort. And it still worked. Dave mentioned the success of that program, but we built out these ones shortly afterwards as well, and we've had them available to the market. Now, excitingly, what we've done is we've actually now grown that, and we've actually brought in the 3 additional ones. They were more difficult for us to build out, and they have been a bit challenging, but we have now released them into the market as well. And automation, we're excited about automation because there's been a lot of interest around automation. And then the last one on the right-hand side, very chuffed to have worked with Dave again and his team to build out CCDE, which is slightly longer than the CCIEs, and I'm not going to be covering it too much today because I'm talking around the IE as an example. But if you are interested in the Design Expert, we can obviously also talk to us about that as well. And Design Expert is really, really an advancement on what I believe an MBA of technology. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but Dave, I think
you say whatever you want.
Yeah. I think it is. Okay, so here's the blueprint. This is what we designed. This is what we worked closely with Dave. This is just an example. Dave and his team, what we worked out. Now, what we wanted to do was ensure that the individuals coming on the program had the best possible opportunity of passing. We wanted to make sure that they, first of all, as a prerequisite, had their core exam. I'd say the core exam is recognized as the actual written nowadays. Dave, is that right?
Yep. It's the qualifier.
Yes, the qualifier, and you cannot write your lab exam without your core. So we want the individuals to come into the actual program already certified with their core, having done their core exam. We also put them through a pre-assessment. It's about a 2.5-hour pre-assessment exam. But what we do with that information is we provide it to the mentor, so the mentor understands where that individual is challenged. We're often seeing it on an enterprise side, on the SD-WAN type of space, and we now know that individual, when we get to SD-WAN through the program, we need to look at a bit more focus in that particular space. You'll see there that the course outline is split up into 3 different phases. The first phase is very much a theoretical Cisco U self-paced, but that self-paced is supported by the mentor. The mentor meets with the delegates once a week. It's a mandatory mentor session, and if the individuals do not attend that mandatory session, a notification is sent to the organization's line manager to inform them that an adequate feedback as to why they're not on that program is given. It's important to note that because it's a 12-month program, if you start falling behind, it's very difficult to catch up. So we put active plans in place to support them. The mentor is available to them. The cohorts that have been put in place are there to support the individuals to catch up if they do fall behind as well. The courses that are highlighted in blue, or the modules highlighted in blue, should I say, Well, the modules that you actually have, two vouchers have been allocated to this part of the phase as well. So if you haven't got your CCNP, you can actually certify as a Cisco network professional through this actual program as well, as part of the value add that we've actually got incorporated into it. So as I said, the mentor meets with them for a module once a week. Each month you go through a module. It is just a high-level blueprint, so it does fluctuate dependent on the course. Some modules are shorter, some modules are slightly longer, so there is a bit of flexibility in this design, but this gives you a good sense of what it is. Now, what really gets intense is when you move out of that theoretical Cisco use space and move into the actual phase 2 of the program. This is where you start doing more of the practical application, what you've learned through the actual program itself, where you start looking at CML and your practice labs. This is all brought in here. The mentor's giving you guidance, and it's also quite important to note that the mentor is actually an engineer himself. It's a CCIE engineer who understands perhaps the platforms that you may be deploying at that particular time when he's instructing and giving guidance and support to the delegates on the actual cohort. Once they've gone through the CML and the readiness, the practice labs, we've put in a really intense boot camp. And if any of you know Micronics, a guy by the name of Narbek Cochran's, his actual course for enterprise, he actually runs enterprise infrastructure boot camp for us, and it's very intense. And what happens there is that the engineers get a really good gauge of how they actually understand what it is they're going to be getting into. And to make it even more difficult, straight after that boot camp, we put the delegates into the practice, not the practice lab, but the simulation lab, which is a graded lab where the individuals get a good experience of what to expect in the actual final lab exam.
Yeah, and just, I want to point out someone in the audience. Corey, wave your hand. Corey's a third partner in this program, Skillable. So we partner with Skillable to actually deliver those graded practice labs. They have a booth around the corner if you want to see their systems, their tools. It's really cool. We do offer that practice lab as a standalone item too. So if you're not, a lot of people are very far along their journey. You can take the graded lab and assess where you're at if you're ready. I actually talked to someone who took our actual CCIE lab on Sunday. So we do the practical exams Saturday and Sunday before Cisco Live starts, and he took that practice lab, and he said it was more difficult than the actual lab he took here. He did pass. He was very, very happy, right? So that deliberate practice and the accurate feedback, that's the embodiment of it there.
Yeah. So it's just another component that's been built into this program that just really gives the engineer an idea of what to expect when they're going to do that final lab exam. And in the final month there, the month 12, the engineers go, or the delegates go through, and they have their first attempt at the lab exam. And hopefully what they've done is they've managed to actually understand how much they need to commit and sacrifice to this program. We've had engineers doing as much as 1,000 to 1,500 self-study hours through this particular program. And those are the guys who are typically getting through the program with their first attempt. The individuals that don't make it, however, we've built in an insurance policy. And how that works is that if you fail your first attempt, you or your organization can purchase the lab exam for your second attempt. And then we've extended, or with the help of Dave's team, we've extended the access to the CML as well as Cisco U, so you can prepare yourself and ready for yourself for your second attempt. And then should you pass that second attempt, the policy will reimburse you for that second attempt. And the reason we structured it that way is we didn't want any of the engineers going into that first attempt with the expectation that there's a second one saying, let me get a sense of what this is like, and I'll go and give it a harder crack when I get the second one, and they're only passing on their second attempt. And that's why that Skillable graded lab is actually built into this program as well, is because that was the intent behind it. There's your practice. It's 3 hours for the design. It's 5 hours for the DOO, and you'll be able to experience what you're going to have experienced in the actual final lab exam. Now, it's very important to actually add in here that if it's not measured, it's not managed, or if it's not managed, it's not measured. And the reporting is critical to the program. So what we did was we actually created a detailed progress report of the individual's progress throughout the actual program itself. We also look at if they're attending those mandatory mentor sessions, where we send those automated notifications to the line management. Because if your organization is paying for it, they want that return on investment, that that individual is actually doing what they've committed to do. We also look at that progress, and we can see in this example that the engineers on here are actually really good and diligent engineers, and they're attending all the modules, and they should all be at that red line, and that's where they should be to date. But those engineers have obviously exceeded where they should be, and this is a live report of some of the delegates who are sitting on our program as well. So the reporting is critical. That reporting is provided monthly to those line managers, and then quarterly we sit down and go through a detailed report with those line managers to provide them with a detail as to what's impacting them if they're falling behind, and how they're performing on the program, with commentary from their mentors as well built into that program itself. Sorry, wrong way. So the last particular point that I wanted to cover around the actual construct of the program is the collaborative community. I spoke to one of the CIOs of one of the big organizations that have put their engineers through this program, and his question to me was, what was very difficult for him when we became a CCIE was he was alone. He didn't have a community of individuals who were running at the same pace as him to actually have information and share content and share links or where to look for access. We have created that community of these perhaps 12 to 15 delegates all working together with a common goal, alongside a mentor who's on that community forum and allowing them to actually share content and information. And that's really important for these engineers, and it's quite a big differentiator that I think we often overlook. So just in summary of the process, if you were to do an analysis of, if I did this on my own, and you certainly can, but how long would it take me? Sometimes we see, perhaps, I don't know, Dave, how long were engineers taking to get through it if they didn't apply a structure?
It is such a difficult question to answer, because a lot of it depends on your job, right? If your job is doing the skills that are a complete set of skills that are tested in the CCIE, you're preparing in your day-to-day work. So a tech engineer has a great insight into parts of the lab, but they're not doing the configurations and the deployments. They're doing the troubleshooting part. A PS engineer, someone who's working in a partner, going out and doing implementations and stuff every day, all day, they're getting a great deal of experience. If you're working at a company as the senior network engineer, you're seeing your network. You're not seeing a lot of variety, right? So there's so many variables, but on average, what we've seen in surveys and discussions with CCIEs is it's about 1,500 hours is the typical. Whether that's in a year, 2 years, that's up to you. But it is an intense journey, right? And it does take a lot of effort to become.
Absolutely. So what we've provided here is a clear, structured path to getting that certification, the best possible opportunity for you to actually take advantage of if you're looking at that certification is this particular program. You've got the mentored structure taking care of you the whole way through the program. You've got the reporting that is provided that gives you, the individual, your progress and how you're performing, as well as your line management as well. You've got the Micronics boot camp that's in there, that's really intense, and it really gives a good gauge of where you are when you come out of that and how you're going to perform in that exam. We really get a really good sense of whether those individuals are going to pass their certification exams or not quite early in the program, just because of those reports as well. And then you've got the self-study portions that's in there. That's in there for a purpose. It's to see how you apply yourself in a really difficult scenario or situation where you've got to manage your time and manage your ability, both work, private life, and studying at the same time as well. So in conclusion, I just wanted to share a little video of some of the delegates have actually been through the program itself. It's a short 2-minute snippet of what they felt when they actually went through the program. This was one of the delegates that came through the program, and it was life-changing for her as well. And she became one of 3 CCIE certified engineers, women in South Africa, and we're trying to actually cultivate that and get that a lot more across the country. But here's the video.
I eventually started it in 2022 on my own. And I failed the first time. I had no track, I had no support. I mean, I didn't know where I was going. It was like a headless chicken, there was no direction.
Before getting to this program, I had tried to undertake a CCIE studying on my own, but with the structure of the program, that was the biggest thing. We can get materials and can purchase books on your own and have your own program, but that normally falls apart if you don't have that kind of support.
The CCIE 5-to-5 team, they were brilliant. When it came to like mentorship support, I mean, as soon as you send them a message, they'll be on the case. I mean, I think I got more therapy from the CCIE 5-to-5 guys than my own wife probably.
The way it's structured, from beginning to the end, it's like you are holding a baby. You are leading a baby. They will show you every path of the way. They will be with you. Where you are weak, the mentor will be there with you to help you. So it's like they will check your strength and your weaknesses. They will work on your weaknesses. When you are lacking something, you can always reach out to the guys. They'll be there to help.
The biggest thing that stood out for me was the track. Like every month we had a course that we had to focus on and stuff like that. And towards the end, they gave us like a boot camp. They told us we need to work towards this boot camp, and thereafter they gave us those 3 months to study. I mean, it was properly structured. I mean, that's what stood out for me.
Everybody were almost unanimous on that the boot camps were the thing that stood out the most on this program.
With the mentor, we were able to keep abreast of what we are doing. And with the peer support, it was awesome because we had people that were on the same journey that could understand the challenges, the frustrations. Something that was seen as impossible, now it's very possible.
I think they should just make this program compulsory for all engineers. It will help the country, it will help the continent. It will bridge the gap, the technological gap between Africa and other countries.
If this was around when I first started, I could have been a CCIE in my 30s instead of now in my late 40s.
So just some feedback from the actual delegates sitting on the program themselves, and Cisco has also acknowledged the efforts that we've put into the success of this program, and we've won 2 awards just because of the 5-to-5 program. One was the Global Success Award and the Customer Cisco Success Story Award as well, which was as early as last year. So you can see we've got testimonials from the delegates who have been through the program, the experience that they've gone through. It's won its awards through Cisco as well. So it really is a good program that's been structured to help those engineers. And you heard those engineers on the testimonial video saying that the structure is what really supported them in getting it through. So my final slide is just to give a little summary of what it is you would expect on the 5-to-5 program. And just as a reminder, the built-in collaboration with Cisco, which was essential to this program's success. It's not something that we created on our own as an organization and took it to the market. It's something that we got consultation from and actually built something that made a lot of sense. The structured roadmaps, so important, the expert mentorship, exclusive learning resources, the hands-on labs, the ongoing progress reporting are all the big components that supported those individuals get through that particular program. And then for them, career advancement. Okay, how was that structured for those individuals, as well as potential increases in their income? And then also, what I haven't mentioned was that you can make use of your Cisco learning credits as well for this program, and that was also because of how we structured this with Cisco. So you can take the program and pay cash for it, or you can actually use your Cisco learning credits. And with that, I'd like to thank you, Dave,
Absolutely.
for joining me on today's presentation. And is there anything you'd like to say in closing?
I'd like to add 2 things. Number one, this is about certification, right? And I think while the focus was on the expert, it applies to everything. So Nil has also built that 5-to-5 program for CCNP as well. Right? So there's multiple versions of this. It's not just for expert, but the programmatic elements are critical. That mentorship, that structure, and that, I would say that accountability, right? I know myself, I'm a procrastinator, right? So most of my studying for my CCIEs happened in the last 30 days, which is a real struggle, right? So that accountability and that structure are really critical. The other thing I say is, we see a lot of people come through our lab because Cisco delivers those labs. Our NA and NP are delivered through a partner, Pearson. So we get surveys, but it's not the same as talking to that engineer after the lab or looking at how they approached. We can see, we log every keystroke in the lab. We can see what they were doing. I would say that the number one is they don't have a solid approach. They want to start at task 1 and do task 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. You will not pass, right? You have to have that ability to do the mental simulation, which is what you're trained to do here. And the second is a lot of them don't have the foundational. They have the 80% of the foundation, but they're missing one area. You can't miss one area and be an expert, right? So that structure and the accountability, I think, are critical to the success. And I love that Bill took what we built with the CCIE enterprise and they expanded it into the other certification programs as well.
Thank you, Dave. I hope this has been valuable. Thank you very much for attending today.
Yep. If you have any questions, I'm here. The whole certification team pretty much is here.
Yep.
We can answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.